Which matzah do you prefer? Do you prefer eating the round handmade matzah or the square machine-made matzah? Now there's an obvious benefit to shmura matzah, and that is the word shmura. It is guarded. Unlike the machine-made matzah, the shmura matzah is guarded from the time it is cut in the field, the wheat, to the time it is grinded into flour, mixed with the water, rolled into dough, and then put in the oven until it comes out of the oven in 18 minutes. It is watched to make sure that no water comes in contact with the matzah, so it cannot become leaven, it cannot become chametz. That is the benefit of the handmade matzah. But I want to share with you three ideas, three lessons, three messages that we could all take from the round shmura matzah. Lesson number one from the round shmura matzah is that unlike the square matzah, where all the square matzahs look the same, they're all identical, each shmura matzah is unique and one of a kind. No two shmura matzahs are the same, just like no two snowflakes are the same. And the first message of the round shmura matzah is that every person is one of a kind, handcrafted, designed individually by God. We are not part of a mass production. As someone once said, everyone else is be yourself because everyone else is taken. The first message of freedom in the round shmura matzah is that when you try to be like others, when you see yourself as just identical to everyone else and copying everyone else, that's not true freedom. Freedom is when you realize God made you who you are, so you could be yourself and you could be true to yourself and be the one-of-a-kind person with the unique self-expression that only you can bring into this world. When you recognize that and understand that, that is the first message of freedom. The second message of freedom in the round matzah is that unlike the square matzah, which represents finity, something which is finite, which has edges and ends, the round matzah is circular, representing something that is infinite, has no beginning and no end. And that represents our souls. While our bodies may be limited, we all have limited physical capabilities, physical lifespan, but our souls are a divine part of God, and therefore they have infinite power and potential. And they have no beginning and end, just like God has no beginning and end. And recognizing that we have to operate from our soul level, from our deeper sense of self, is the second message of the round matzah, that like the round matzah which goes round and round, it represents infinity, we have an infinite component in ourselves. And the more we tap into our soul and operate from our soul level, the more infinite our lives will be. And the more unlimited and unrestricted we will be in our lives, meaning the more freedom we will have in our lives. And finally, the third message of the matzah. Unlike the machine matzah, which is mass-produced, but also made automatically, all you have to do is flip a switch and the matzahs almost make themselves. The handmade matzah requires human input, devotion, and effort on our part. And so too, the third message of freedom is that we shouldn't expect anything to happen automatically in life. We should know that it's only through our efforts that we can achieve things, that we find freedom not from being absolved of work or freed from any work or responsibility, but only by assuming responsibilities in our lives, by taking action in our lives, by working with diligence and devotion with our hands, with our hearts, with our minds, like the handmade matzah that requires constant human input and effort. That's the way we find our truest freedom and meaning in life. And I realized that these three messages are also the same three messages of a Torah scroll. You know, every synagogue reads the Torah from a Torah scroll. Now that we have printing presses, why not just use printed chumashes? A printed chumash may cost $25. A Torah scroll to write by hand could cost $30,000 or $40,000. It takes a year for a scribe to sit and write every letter with ink on parchment. And I realized that the message of the Torah scroll is the same message as the round shmura matzahs. Message number one of the Torah scroll is that every Torah scroll is one of a kind. Every chumash, if you print 1,000 or 10,000 chumashes, they're all identical. But every Torah scroll is one of a kind. Each one was written by a different scribe at a different time, with different thoughts, with different feelings. So too, every one of us is one of a kind, like the shmura matzah, like the Torah scroll. No two people think alike. No two people feel alike. Every person is unique. Only God knows our true differences. But we should never see ourselves as a mass production, like we all came off a big printing press. No, God handcrafted us Each one of us is individually made by God, and we should recognize our own uniqueness and our own specialness, just like the Torah scroll and the round Shmura Matzah. The second lesson of the Torah scroll, again, is identical to the Shmura Matzah. Unlike a book which is square, like the square matzah, the Torah scroll is round. A scroll is round. We read from scrolls because it represents the cycle of life and the infinity of life, that there's no beginning and there's no end. A Jew can never say, I've completed my spiritual journey of life, I've completed my study of Torah, I've completed my level of knowledge. No, when we finish the Torah and Simchas Torah, we start reading all over again, because it's a continuous, ongoing cycle of life. Every day we have to progress, we have to grow. And that's the truest freedom of life, knowing that we are spiritual entities, that we have to, unlike our bodies that maybe, God forbid, decline with age and with time, our souls are always growing higher and higher. We're going in a circular motion, like a spiral staircase. We go around and around every year, but we go higher and higher and higher and higher in our lives. And finally, the third message of the Torah scroll, which is identical to the Shmura Matzah. Unlike the books in a printing press, which are just printed automatically with no effort, the Torah scroll is written with effort, with devotion by the scribe over the course of a year till he completes the Torah scroll. And that's the message of the handmade Shmura Matzah, which will adorn your table. It takes effort, it takes devotion. If you want to lead a life of freedom, you can't just expect to sit back and not act. Freedom is not being absolved from any work or responsibility. On the contrary, it's working with heart and soul and mind and devotion, and that's the way we find the truest freedom and the truest meaning and the truest happiness and fulfillment in our lives. I'd like to conclude with a story that happened right after World War II, after the end of the Holocaust, the greatest tragedy in Jewish history. And it was 1945, and the Scheiner Rabbi wanted to prepare for Passover, and he managed to buy some wheat and make some flour and bake a limited supply of handmade Shmura Matzah. And he announced that he would be giving out Shmura Matzah to any Jew who would like to have for their Passover Seder. He would give them one matzah. And he said if someone is leading a communal Seder, he will give them 3 matzahs for their communal Seder to give to the people at the Seder. And Jews came from all over to get a matzah. And finally, one Jew, the son of the Vizhnitzer Rebbe, came a few days before Passover, and he said, my father will be conducting a communal Seder for his community. And so the Scheiner Rebbe gave the son of the Vizhnitzer Rebbe 3 matzahs. At that point, the son of the Vizhnitzer Rebbe said to the Scheiner Rebbe, my father asked if he could please get an additional 3 matzahs, 6 matzahs. To which the Scheiner Rebbe said, I'm sorry, but I just don't have enough to give you double. At that point, he started to beg, please, my father said it's very important for him to get 6 matzahs, not 3. And again, the Scheiner Rebbe said, if I give you, I won't have enough for others. But he kept on pleading, and finally the Scheiner Rebbe had no choice. He gave in, and he handed him 6 matzahs. A few hours before Passover, the son of the Vizhnitzer Rebbe returned to the Scheiner Rebbe, and he said, my father sent me back to ask you if you have any more matzahs. And the Scheiner Rebbe said, no, as I told you, I had a very limited amount, and I gave away all my matzah. And then the son of the Vizhnitzer Rebbe said to the Scheiner Rebbe, tell me, my father wants to know if you have any matzah left for yourself. The Scheiner Rebbe said, unfortunately, no. So many Jews needed matzahs that I gave away my very last matzah, because I said to myself, they need the matzah just like I do. And so I gave away my very last matzah. I have no matzah left even for myself for Passover. At that point, the son of the Vizhnitzer Rebbe took out 3 matzahs. He said, my father asked me to give you these 3 matzahs for your Seder and wish you a happy and a sweet Passover. Then he continued to say, my father knew that knowing you and your selflessness and your love for your fellow Jew, he anticipated that you would give away all the matzah and not leave any for yourself. That's why in advance he asked not for 3 matzahs, but for 6 matzahs. So he can put aside 3 matzahs for you, so you could have matzah for your Seder on the holiday of Passover. That is the true meaning of freedom. Freedom is when we could be ourselves and go beyond ourselves and think about others. This Passover is Manashtana HaPesach Hazeh Mikol HaPesachs. How is this Passover different than any other Passover? Because more people are going to have to make their own Seder, not rely on others to make the Seder for them. More people are going to have to lead their own Seders because they're not going to have maybe the people who usually lead their family Seders. And more effort and devotion and love and care is going to go into preparing this Seder and leading this Seder than any other Passover, making it meaningful and spiritual and uplifting despite the circumstances we find ourselves in. that extra devotion, that extra touch, that extra heart and soul that we put into our Seders this year will make it the truest and the freest Seder of our lives. Let's prepare for a meaningful Seder and make this a Seder that we will always remember as the most vibrant, the most joyous, the most fulfilling and meaningful Seder of our lives. Have a wonderful day and Chag Kasher v'Sameach.